Get caught in your own web. Line number 12, by you. Am I going to have to refute every line, every phrase, everything line by line? And that's what I do. They lie so much you have to take it phrase by phrase, folks, and reveal they're ugly, lying. And this is their 12th lie. It's linear, but it's agonic. It's an angle in every line. What gobbledygook you write. They'll write any lie. Their job is to enforce the law. How do they spend your taxpayer money? By circumventing the law. You quote law, but you skip how it applies. Superficial and supercilious. And I'm talking to you, McCabe, Rudolph, and Littman, and your two ghostwriters. And you spit out cites of no relevance and out of context, and you do not show that they apply. They do not apply. Again, these SM-3 are not law. These spit-outs are not law. They are just more bad papers by more bad judges. And that's all there is in the courts. There's bad judges. If you don't do what the mob tells you to do, you're out. So anybody good is out. You don't have a chance. They've completely ruined the courts. Now, these ghostwriters say, while repeated motions, especially in the small claims context, are not to be encouraged. Stop right there. Why, especially in small claims court? And D, what do you know about small claims court? If you knew anything about small claims court, you would know that none of this rhetoric of yours applies. Small claims is simplified, speedy, and inexpensive litigation, and look what you've done to it. What do you know about small claims? Who? You! Littman! McCabe! And Rudolph. You do not even know there has to be a trial in small claims court. Stop and think of that. This whole thing is bogus. There has to be a trial in small claims court. There never was a trial. So right then and there, everything that the appellate term does is illegal. They don't even know there has to be a trial in small claims court. Who? Littman! You don't know there has to be a trial in small claims court? Rudolph, you don't know that? McCabe, you don't know that? Glendora says they are not to be encouraged, particularly when they ask for the same relief twice. And this is elementary, Watson. And this is your 13th misrepresentation. And Glendora says this is not the law that applies. And the ghostwriter says there is no bar to the bringing of successive motions to vacate upon civil practice laws and rules 5015 5015 grounds. And then they say, see Britain versus Sutton. And well, who cares? That's not law. That's another bad decision by a bad judge. As long as the same grounds are not relitigated. Well, they were. This is so pathetic. This is so dis-American. But it's at 9:30 p.m., or rather a.m., on March the 14th, 1 month from Valentine's Day, and we're going to rejoice at 9:30 that we have each other, and that we have been led into this court to expose to you the total hopelessness of the state of the courts today. Totally depraved, totally self-interest, totally crooked, totally ignominious, and totally dishonorable. And now this ghostwriter says on line 22 and 23, rewind. On line number 14, the law that applies here is the Uniform Justice Court Act, Section 1801 et sequitur. This is small claims. We're not talking about civil practice laws and rules. We're talking about the Uniform Justice Court Act of 1975, Article 18. And is codified as the Uniform City Court Act, Section 1801. That's what we're talking about. Small claims. Your whole paper is a nullity. Everything that Sarok did is a nullity. This is small claims, and there was no trial. And there has to be a trial in small claims. And so they go ultra vires. That is their job. Instead of dealing with the fact in front of them, they go here, there, and everywhere, ultra vires, out of bounds, what you call a foul ball. And this ghostwriter says clearly the second motion, the subject of the present appeal, sought no relitigation of the jurisdictional issue raised in the first motion. Oh yes, it did. Again and again, Sarok said he had to be served personally at his home, and there's no such law. He served at his last known business address. Over and over again. That Glendora did the service at his business address. Well, Glendora doesn't do the service in small claims. That's another thing. They don't know about small claims. In small claims, the clerk of the court does the service. And Sarok is too stupid to know that. And he's a Park Avenue lawyer. But he wants $5,000. Well, pellucidly, it did have to do with jurisdiction, Glendora points out, and your foul rationalizations are disgusting. Admit, regret, repent, restitute, all 7 of you. Who are the 7? Cecilia, Sarok, Sally, Stevens, Burke and Burke, McCabe, Lippman, and Rudolph, and the 2 ghostwriters. Sarok presented no medical evidence. Sarok had no meritorious defense. And you are all acting as Sarok's defense counsel. You, judges, are acting as the defendant's defense counsel. Now, Glendora's writes big because she is talking loudly so that you can hear it. Lippman, Rudolph, and McCabe. Of 2, Sarok didn't even know the law in Westchester County. Any small claims action can be brought in any city court in Westchester, Yonkers, Mount Vernon, Rye, Peekskill, or White Plains. A Peekskill venue does not have to be brought in Peekskill. He looked mighty impotent and incompetent, and so do you. And everything he said thereafter was even more disgraceful. And you are cognizant that he was cognizant that he had no meritorious defense. It was just a steal to keep from paying Glendora her $5,020. It was just a stall, a stay. And he resorted to ignorance to try to get this stay to keep me from collecting the $5,000. I did send the sheriff after them. You look just as cheap as he did and as he still does. And we are on page 10. Moreover, unlike this ghostwriter, for you can't write your own papers even. McCabe, the three of you get together, you can't even write your own papers. You have to hire a ghostwriter, and we have to pay for it. Turn us in your $130,000 a year that you steal from us. Moreover, unlike Civil Practice Laws and Rules 3211E, which specifically regulates the number and timing of motions to dismiss on certain grounds, Civil Practice Laws and Rules 5015 contains no such limitation. Why don't you deal with the law at hand? Ultra vires, out of bounds, foul ball. The law at hand is Uniform City Court Act 1801 at Secretary. Why don't you deal with the law that this case is about? You're cheating. You're foul, and everybody can see you as foul, and everybody can smell you as foul. Glendora says this is small claims court. Civil Practice Laws and Rules 3211E and Civil Practice Laws and Rules 5015 is Brogdonagdian in Lilliputian. Don't you wish this were true? The land of the free and the home of the brave? Well, it isn't. It's not the land of the free and the home of the brave. For the very reasons that I've been telling you for the past hour. Says Glendora, too, Rudolph, Lippman, and McKay. You do not know your job. The law here is the Uniform Justice Court Act, Section 1801, et Secretary, or the Uniform City Court Act. You are even more devoid of power to perform than Sarok, a liar for hire. You are all a liar for hire. Every one of you is a liar for hire. It's just not Sarok and Sally Stevens, Burke and Burke and Cecilia Masterilli. It is you, Kenneth Rudolph. It is you, Edward McCabe. And it is you, Jonathan Lippman. And it is you, the two ghost writers. Every one of you is a liar for hire. Glendora's site is Matthew 22. You shall love the Lord your God, with all your heart. So I stand up for my God, and the end that you do good, and of all those disappointed in you, I would say that God is the most. Patently, the call must be answered. Someday, they have to answer the call. There are 130,000 a year is more important to them than their soul. Just think, the millions that a soul is worth. In the analogous case of repealed motions for summary judgment, pursuant to Civil Practice Laws and Rules 3212, again, it's a long row. Same with the small claims law. This is small claims court. Don't you know the difference? Which also contains no specific limitation on the number of motions. You see how they lie and rationalize and cheat and steal and circumvent? This is kid stuff. This is not a mature mind. Glendora says, what an abominable and disgusting lie this is. And it's your lie number 21. Mephisto certainly has you in his trident. Press told you that Civil Practice Laws and Rules 3211 did not apply in small claims court. And you just ignore that. Because you've been told. To get that $5,000. Because you're going to get a piece of it. You've been told that. and is such a small amount, $5,000, to a Park Avenue lawyer, to Cablevision, a $3 billion corporation, and to you punks on the appellate term at $130,000 a year, or $140,000, whatever it is, plus the extra amount that you get for being on the appellate term. Well, Glendora says that press has already told you that civil practice laws and rules 3211, which says that Glendora failed to state a claim upon which relief could be granted, that it doesn't apply in small claims court. And none of this that you've written applies in small claims court. Nescience. Certainly, says Glendora, Section 3212 does not apply, just as Section 3211 doesn't apply. Municipal judges no more than appellate judges. What a contemptible stretch this is. It goes to the snapping point, and you have snapped. You set and get $130,000 a year, circa, 3 times. This is 3 times $130,000. That's $390,000. That's $400,000 of your tax money. And they get paid that. Plus $70,000 a year for these sold law clerks who make their money just breaking the law and getting around it instead of doing the job enforcing it. And you hit the nadir. And this is why God called. It's 9:45 a.m. It's March the 14th. This is altogether too disgusting. Should I stop and tell you some jokes? I have to stop using my Sony Mini DV camera. You want to know why? It keeps talking about icons. And you must not have any other gods before you. And the bank robber said to the bank teller, "One peep out of you and your geography." And she said, "Don't you mean history?" He said, "Don't change the subject." Don't you wish all these patriotic songs were still true? They're not. They're singing about something that vanished years ago. You know, when I was a kid, I used to worry about my pigeon toes. No, pigeon toes in. What do I worry about now? My crow's feet. The little boy was in the back of the church, and he was reading these names on the wall. And the priest went by, and the little boy says, "What are all these names?" And the priest said, "Those are the names of our people who died in the service." And the little boy said, "Which service? 8:30? 9:30? 10:30? Why was the dumb blonde staring at the orange juice? Why was the dumb blonde staring at the orange juice? It said, "Concentrate." I have to go to my joy book. And I have to write down the joys in 15-minute intervals for the time that we've been reporting this to you. So, let me get out my remote control. Isn't that fun? Nearer, my God, to thee. Nearer to thee. We are all one with thee. One with thee. So shall my song will be. Nearer, my God, to thee. Nearer, my God, to nearer to thee. Back from the break and back from the rejoicing. We are on page 11 of Glendora versus Cecilia Masterilli, Taibat Salako, Jude de Krenzer, Officer Lewis, in the White Plains City Court, where Glendora won $5,000 and where Sally Stevens Burke and Cablevision took it to the appellate term, performed improper influence and got the appellate term to take the $5,000 away from Glendora so they could acquisitively and avariciously and greedily and graspingly take the $5,000. And we are looking at the disgusting rationalizations and circumventions of the law and adulteration of the courts that these crooks went through to get their grubby hands on the $5,000. And who are these crooks? Edward McCabe, Jonathan Littman, and Kenneth W. Rudolph, and their two ghostwriters. Glendora has written a 66-page excoriation and said that she wants relief from their paper because the paper is bogus. Number one, it isn't signed. An order is not an order until it is signed by a judge, and in this case 3 judges. It is bogus because there was no trial in small claims. It is bogus because the only law that applies here is the Uniform Justice Court Act of 1975, Article 18, codified as the Uniform City Court Act, Section 1801, etc., small claims. It is very depressing to look at their slop and their greed and their groveling and their dehumanization. Sample of how they get around the law. It has been stated that while it is true, this is the ghostwriters writing for these 3 crooks, McCabe, Rudolph, and Littman. While it is true that multiple motions for summary judgment in the same action are looked upon with disfavor, oh yeah, certainly they are. But we're going to do it because we want this dismissed. We want this $5,000. Glendora says, like your sites, computer spitouts of no relevance, you are washouts. They're computer spitouts are the same as they're being washouts. You write illegal legal papers. You write illegal legal papers. And don't think that we don't know that. And poor Judith Kay wants people to have respect for New York courts. How? Ha ha! Ho ho! He he! When you put out slop like this day after day after day, and you did it 4 times in the past year. Glendora versus Charles F. Dolan, Cablevision Systems Corporation, James L. Dolan, Mac Budil, Thomas Garger, Charles Former, Peggy Anderson, Christine Savarino, Cecilia Masterilli, Robert Callady, Sally Stevens Burke and Patricia Langelotti in the Harrison Court. That's one. Number 2, you did it in Glendora versus Deborah Eacock, and you let Stephen Taman go, and you told the world that it's okay to give your word and not keep it. What kind of parents did you have? You, McCabe, You Lippman, you Rudolph, what kind of parents did you have? Didn't they teach you that you're supposed to keep your word? Why are you upside down on your head? And then number 3, Glendora versus Cecilia Masterilli, Tybat Salako, Jill DeCrenzer, and Officer Lewis, Peekskill Police Department. And then number 4, Glendora versus Charles F. Dolan and Cablevision Systems Corporation in the Rye City Court. Well, the one we're talking about today is Glendora versus Cecilia Masterilli in the White Plains City Court. You do as much harm to the New York courts as Saul Walker did, who was once the chief judge of the state of New York, who went to federal prison for breaking the law. This is how good the judges are in the state of New York. Oh yes, that happened. Cover it up as they try. It happened. And remember it forever. That's the caliber. That's the capacity. That's the capability. That's the faculty that we have in New York State courts. Well, we're up to Zeta, and we're reading this paper to you. It's 60 pages long. We're going to do 11 through 20. Glendora illuminates your pusillanimous SM3, whatever that is. That's a page number. And so this ghostwriter continues to say, more than one motion is permissible where the subsequent motion is based upon newly discovered evidence, or the motion or the moving party can demonstrate other sufficient cause for granting the motion. Where is your statutory authority? Is that a law? No, the law is that you don't make these repeated motions. That is the law. But what do? You take another bad decision by a bad judge and you try to make us think that it's law. Well, cases are not law. Judges do not make law. Cases are not law. The New York legislature makes law. The Congress of the United States makes law. Don't you ever know that we have a 3-chamber system? Don't you know that? Your job is to enforce the law. Your job is not to make the law. That's up to the legislators. And Glendora says this is not a re. This is a full-blown legal action, and you do not do such dumb things. Sawrock had no newly discovered evidence. He had no new medical proof. And this is your lie, number 24. Whose lie? Rudolph, McCabe, and Lippman. Lippman! The chief judge of administration, court administration, for the state of New York, county of New York, lying in front of you. Nor did he have any old medical proof. This is a disgusting, twist and spin. You are unclean. Sawrock had no law. Sawrock had no facts. Sawrock had no grounds. All he had was avarice, a cheap shot for $5,020. That's all he wanted. And you join him on all 5 of these. And then this ghostwriter for these 3 bad judges says, all that is required for the court to grant a motion to vacate a default judgment pursuant to Civil Practice Laws and Rules 5015, Bow Legs A, Bow Legs 1, is a showing of sufficiently good reason in the form of excuse and merit for the court to exercise its discretion to vacate the default. He did not have that. He did not have merit. He did not have an excuse. And your lying does not absolve him. And you can lie all you want, but you don't change the facts. The facts are still here. Mr. Lippman, Mr. Rudolph, Mr. McKay, all the lying you do in the world, all the lying you pay these ghostwriters to do, doesn't change the facts. The facts are there. He had no meritorious defense. He had no excuse. Cecilia didn't go to court when she should have. Savarino did not see that Cablevision defended her, or whoever, or whatever. And sadly had no excuse for not being there. And Sorok had no excuse for not being there.